Good morning. Good morning. So good to have you all here. Before we get started with the presentation, I want to thank UMass Amherst. I want to thank Stephen. Stephen attended a school where my husband and I have been for 28 years, Phillips Exeter Academy. So I honor education. I myself am a graduate of the SUNY system of New York, which I'm very proud of. And then from there, I went to Harvard. But that's a long, long story. Well, if you want to hear a real part of the story was I turned down Harvard for undergraduate and turned down a 4-year scholarship. And I'm happy that I did. But I want to dedicate the talk to someone I've been married to for 41 years, the dean, who's on campus today, and he couldn't make it, but he sent me a great text, said, "Good luck, do a good job." And I also want to dedicate it to the women in my life, my mother, her wonderful family of 8 siblings. And I have a special guest here today, my sister. My sister and my journey together, as Rachel in the audience noticed, is very close because she heard our entire conversation in the bathroom today. Life is a journey. I'm just going to share a small part of my journey, which is not over, meaning I'm still breathing. So that means it's not over yet. But part of that journey I want to share with you is how your world is going to change. So I know a lot of you, like Rachel in the bathroom, when we were talking about Hillary Clinton, Rachel wanted to connect me right away, and I'm sure, and as I told her afterwards, I will do that. But let me give you some information before I do my first click. 1, if you want to get involved with the next set of women's issues that are happening, next March, and you need to write this down. Teacher background, you need to write this down. Because this is where some of you can get a job. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, help you get a job. When Hillary Clinton, I was in the audience in Beijing, China. I was way, way up top. I was there with Peggy Kerry, Secretary of State now, John Kerry's sister. We left, where were we, in Beijing. We went out to a small town called Wairo, 4:30 in the morning, and we wanted to hear First Lady Hillary Clinton speak. And of course, during that conference, she said, women's rights are human rights. And of course, it changed the lives of so many women, only because she articulated a passion, a drive of something that every woman knows in her heart who has raised a family, who's been an aunt, a sister, that not only does she have rights, but she has sacrificed, most women sacrifice all their lives to support someone else and their families. So when Hillary said women's rights are human rights, we all said, okay, it's on. And what it meant when we said it's on, we're going to get out there and change the world. Because she said everybody. And that's what I want to share with you today. This conversation is for every single one of you in the room. So next March, the U.S. Commission on the Status of Women will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Beijing Plus 20. Every single nonprofit, college organization, AAUW, scientific, Zonta, business, every single person is going to be at that conference. What you need to do, if you want to change the world, and I know you all want to, is that you have to find out from your profession who is going to be at that conference, and you're going to say this: I want to represent you. Because each delegation needs a young person. Every person my age, and I know I don't look 20, but hey, I'm looking pretty good for 62. Each person, I do. Each person my age needs to work with another person. So do not come to me and say, Jackie, I want a job. I'll help Rachel out there, though. But every person here, this is how you get a job. This is how you work with the next generation to help my generation of women pass it forward. Okay? Let's get started. How many minutes? Okay. This is Junko Kim. Junko was in my daughter's class at Phillips Exeter. She went to Barnet. She went to a lot of other places. So here we are at the UN. And I said, Junko, I need some help. She said, with what, Jackie? Because I always ask young people, I always say, I need help. And that's a great way to start. Don't say, I have a great idea for you. Say, I need help. So I said to Junko, I need help. So Junko says, on what? So I said, I'm trying to put together a conference. She said, okay, send me the information. So I sent her the information, and Junko called me up, and she said, Jackie, this sucks. I said, what do you mean it sucks? She says, this information is outdated, it's old, you're not going to get anyone to come to your conference. So I said, Junko, what should I do? She says, every older woman that you work with, tell them it sucks, and if you do it this way, it's going to die. So I was like, wait a minute. I've worked hard all these years. I know all the UN lingo. I know what a prep com is. I know all this UN language. You mean it's going to die now that I'm near the top? She said, yep. So I went to some other professors I was working with, and I said, well, this young woman said, we suck, and it's going to die. So she said, all right, we will give Junko a try. All right, now, it was on. Oh, why did I click? Sorry. Okay, so we're to this photo here, but let's bring it up. What else? So let me tell you who some of these women are in this slide here, because Junko helped me put this together. You notice we're at LinkedIn. This is what I learned to listen to Junko and other young people. My generation has to move this stuff very, very quickly, because the world is changing very, very quickly. And this means, as for you as well, you need to learn every single technology that's coming out. These women here, they all look like they're having a good time. The woman in the orange suit, she is the Deputy Electoral Commissioner for South Sudan. South Sudan is still in war state. These women sent me a text. We got them here to the United States to figure out how we could use LinkedIn as a secure network to get information back and forth, to build the country, but to train women. And this is why Greg and I were talking last night. What are those new platforms that are available for women to train on the ground, to go from village to village, all by a cell phone? We are now in negotiations. We're getting the information out of South Sudan, because what we found out is that people don't listen to women. Women have the solutions for their own country. But that also means a lot of men don't want to give up power, sorry to say. They don't want to collaborate, sorry to say. And some people don't realize that the world is changing. The woman kneeling next to her with the cell phone, she is, believe it or not, the head of the Constitutional Law Review for South Sudan. They are looking at their constitution to make sure it includes women. That also means including women, older women, divorced women, women who are displaced, women, making sure all indigenous languages are mentioned. And we noticed that when we were working with South Africa and a number of countries, when we looked at the United States Constitution, compared the two, that, of course, blacks couldn't vote. If you didn't own property, even if you were a white man, you couldn't vote. So most countries are trying to move everything forward in a much more rapid pace. If you look at the woman who's on the cell phone by the end, she is from Ethiopia. She is a professor at the UN Institute of Peace, United Nations Institute of Peace there. Mary Olashoga, she's right under the eye, and we're going to talk to her about her a little bit more. The three last women over there are that last four row. One is from Senegal, Khaloud, she's from Khartoum, and I'm going to mention them in the next slide. Carolina is in the glasses, and Carolina works at LinkedIn. And I'm going to tell you how I got to LinkedIn. And the red skirt is Enos, and the last woman, Kathy, she works on issues in the Pacific Rim. So when Junko said, Jackie, you need to include the next generation, we realized it wasn't alone about college women, it was about high school girls. This is how deep and prepared women need to be. It doesn't start at college, it starts even at high school. The young woman in the blue dress, she was the first woman from her country to come to Phillips Exeter Academy from Indonesia. She is now back there this summer. She's a senior in college. She is now back in Indonesia this summer, working on journalistic issues and trying to prepare through literature the next generation younger than her in Indonesia to be leaders. And then you see my sister there on the far right, Kim in the brown suit. My sister is a social worker. She runs 2 homeless shelters in the city of New York, which works with families and children. So what do women need? And this is what you need to know, that women are how they are preparing themselves to lead in their countries. We had a great opportunity to bring the women from sub-Saharan Africa to NYU, Stern School of Business. You have to be multifaceted these days. You cannot be one-dimensional. Most economies, if you say you want to go help, they'll look at you and laugh, okay? They want to know, 1, can you run a budget? What does that budget look like? And do you have integrity to make sure the money goes to the people? So the professors at Stern School of Business had us there for a few days. We also brought in Essence magazine. We also brought in Black Enterprise magazine to train the women. And here we took them to Harvard University. The woman in the brown coat, she quietly came in from Somalia. She is one of the closest women out of the country to the First Lady of Somalia, who is also a Harvard School graduate. What you will find out that most First Ladies are engaged, but in a very quiet way, and they are looking for women to assist them so that they can work with women and children. Because we all know in most countries, if you don't have an education, of course you don't understand your healthcare system. So all countries are looking for women who know business, who understand a healthcare system and how to set it up. Matthew was there with us. He was in the Peace Corps. And Matthew realized, one as a white male, along with his wife, the world had changed and it had shifted so clearly that he could not go in as a white man and try to run a country or say, I have the solutions. We realize, and you will realize even more, that it's about collaboration. You've heard the word listen this morning. It's about collaboration. There was no way, and there will never be a way, that you can tell the people of the world that you have the answers for them. And you heard that, I think it was Scott this morning, he spoke about listening. It took me a long time to be a good listener. So I was in Bosnia, and I was there during the Kosovo War, of course not dressed like this, and they put me in a village. But they called me first. They called me to headquarters in Sarajevo, and they said, okay, we're going to evacuate everyone, and you're all going to go home. And I said, yes. I haven't seen my husband in 6 months. You know, I think we had one more kid graduating from high school. And I said, I'm going home. And they said, Jackie, you're not going anywhere. And I'm like, what? So I had to stay in country to implement the last phases of the Dayton Agreement. And they put me in a small village called Gorazda. Gorazda was a village where one population continuously sniped with rifles, AK-47s, at the other population. The British came in, and that became a safe haven, and that's where I lived. I did know how to say Dorbadan, Kakasti, Ime Jackie, and you pick up a language really quickly when you're hungry, so you have to eat, so you get very facile with languages. So I lived in this house, wanting to go home. The Italian Carabinieri lived behind me. And I have like 4 minutes. Oh, my God. So what happened was I had a water system. Everybody on the block was using my water. And I said, oh, my gosh, turn off the water. And my driver said, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Then I said, no, turn off the water. He says, I wouldn't do that. So he took his wrench, turned off the water. The result was I found out that the women in the village needed the water to survive, but they were my protectors. I had to understand the culture. I had to understand what real protection was, and I had to get the job done. So needless to say, I paid a high water bill, but I was safe, and the woman could have safe water. Because as you know, with any war zone, when there are any type of weapons that are left there, they throw them in the river, and everything becomes contaminated. So I had a safe water system. But I'm running out of time here. There's Junko again, young person. Here we are, and I'm running out of time again. Here we are in New Hampshire. This is where Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, everybody who wants to be president comes. We're there with Secretary of State Bill Gardner, and these women are being trained on looking at electoral systems, mapping what's going to happen, and of course we talked about the system Ushahidi, which you all should look up. This is where Michelle Obama signed the papers for her husband to become president, and they learned something. It only costs $1,000 to run for president, and we know that if these women continue to have the skills and bring them back home, by the way, they all went back home. Only one person is here, and that's part of our program. No one stays. You go back home. Here we are. We took Mary. Mary has now started her own organization in Red. She was with us earlier. Here is Carolina. Carolina is now mentoring other women. I had them both speak at the UN this year. So not only training, but allowing them to lead themselves. So you train, you collaborate, you let go, and you let them lead. Here we are with another group collaborating with National Association of Negro Businesswomen. Here we are because we know we need to collaborate with men. I didn't leave you guys out. But we know with African American males, we know about the industrial prison complex, but we know that this happens all over the world with indigenous people, and we know that we cannot just house people. And as you know, the president is coming up with a new initiative. I want to leave you just with this last picture here. These are all my friends and sisters who are on the board at Harvard. Many years ago when I was a dean, I was working with some kids out of Chicago. I didn't get the opportunity to meet Oprah, but she spoke at Harvard last year. And everybody was literally knocking me down to get to Oprah. And she put her hand on me and she said, and I bent down, and she said, "Jackie, stand up. You belong here." Ladies and gentlemen, all of you in this room, women's rights and human rights, stand up. You belong here. We need you. Listen, collaborate, be intentional, and join the party. Thank you very much.